Hey everybody, how you doing? Dudley Taft here. Good to see you. So, we didn't get to tour very much last year in 2020 because of the COVID virus. So that gave us a lot of time to work on new material, get creative, make videos, but also reflect on things we've done in the past. And I thought it would be really cool to sit down with Mr. John Kessler, bass player extraordinaire and blues musicologist, who accompanied me on the first tour of Europe in 2012. So we sat down with John for an hour-long conversation, a little long, but it would be really cool for those people in bands that want to know what it's like to go and play in Europe. So without much further ado, welcome to Dudley's World of Guitar, episode number 7, and our interview with Mr. John Kessler. Hey everybody, how you doing? Today we're going to talk with my good friend and musical compatriot, Mr. John Kessler from Seattle. We're going to talk about our first tour in the EU. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. John Kessler.
All right, yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into, that's for sure. You know, and going to the to gigs in the Northern Hemisphere in February, not necessarily recommended, but I think we did 8 shows in 11 days. I think that was the
something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 8 shows.
Yeah.
8 shows. Yeah, it was crazy. Who, you know, for people that aren't familiar with our relationship and working together, I came to you early on in, sort of right when I was starting to play blues and blues rock, and I came to you and asked for your advice. On a bunch of different things, material and all this kind of stuff. And we talked a little bit, and you were very modest and everything. And then I called to ask about something. He's like, oh, yeah, I play bass. And I'm like, you play bass? Oh, I think, yeah, I play 5-string. You play 5-string? Ooh. And then you came over and played on a track. And I'm like, okay. And when the bass player I was playing with gave me a little friction, I was like, well, what's going on, Johnny? You want to play?
Yeah, no, actually, and it was cool because I was kind of resisting it. You were having the Blues Overkill project at the time. Mm-hmm. It was great. I mean, great musicians. It was really heavy. I thought at that time it was maybe a little too heavy for me. Yeah, and then you called me on like a Friday and said, John, I need you. I have a gig tomorrow at Hemp Fest.
Oh, that's right.
And my bass player, he canceled on me, I don't, maybe we're making that all up. I don't know, but in any case,
it was true. It was true.
In any case, I did a gig with 1 day's preparation, and I really loved it.
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, it was heavier than anything I'd ever honestly played on. Heavy, hard rock wise. But Scott was drumming, and you were playing guitar, and I had the low string 5-string bass, and man, it was roaring. We played to like 5,000 people.
Yeah.
First show I did with you. So
that was fun. Never underestimate the healing power or the force of rock and roll.
Yeah.
And to me, I didn't get that at all. I thought, I'm playing blues now. Boo bow, boo boom, boom boom. Yeah, maybe it was drop C sharp, but hey, I'm playing blues. I should just fit right in, and no, not really the case. And it surprised me the reaction that I would get from, blues aficionados, and that was, it was very heavy and very hard. But I mean, I don't know. It's like, we do Peter Green's "Oh Well," and it's like British Invasion to me, or I didn't think we were any heavier than, maybe Deep Purple, we certainly weren't, I wasn't Tony Iommi with the distortion, but I wasn't Freddie King either. I was somewhere in the middle, white guy.
With guitar.
Northern white guy trying to do some blues, but.
Well, they love that heavy stuff in Europe, though, we found out.
Yes, the joke in Spinal Tap was we're playing the Jazz Blues Festival, and the joke is all the hyphens. We play fusion rock, fusion blues, ska rock, or whatever. They love that over there, which was insane. But we'll get to that. But who was it that was going over there? Where didn't we hear like somebody? Some of our friends were going over and playing and just having a really, really good time.
The guitar player, the Jimi Hendrix dude.
That's right. Randy Hansen.
Yeah, Randy Hansen.
And his manager guy, Kevin Philo. That's right. They'd gone to Germany a lot. And I ran into Randy probably through Spike and the Impalers, which was a weird radio show morning band that I was playing with back then. That's another story. But he was like the first Jimi Hendrix impersonator. And so he had this still has this huge career in Germany, So he gets, good money. And we're like, yeah, this guy's going over. He's getting like $1,000 a night, to play to 300 or 400 people, just playing, Jimi Hendrix songs, fuck, we can do that, right? But it proved pretty difficult. I remember, getting hold of Kevin, sitting down with him, who can help book us. He turned me on to his booking agent, who said no, still says no. 9 years later, his last name is actually Bookman, which I think is perfect. Reinhard Bookman. If you're listening, Reiny, you better get us going, buddy. So we finally found this guy, Jay Blues Farm, and he was kind of a strange cat because he didn't like to talk on the phone.
Right, a booking agent.
Yeah, a booking agent. It doesn't like to talk on the phone. What kind of agent do we get? That's our guy, Really hard to communicate with. You're the one we want. But he took a chance on us and booked us a few shows, and I think at this point I had been talking with a guy named Bernd Ramin, who was a German guy, and I don't know how I got introduced to him or something, or he found me on the internet, and he wanted to take an album that I had just released, Left for Dead, and release it on this German label. So we kind of had a connection over there, and let's go over there and play and show them we're good, and they'll sign us to their label, and everything will be amazing. So I don't know about you, man, but I was so psyched to do this. This was like the coolest thing ever. After playing the same venues over and over, and look, if we lived in another part of the country, it might have been different, but when you're in Seattle, you're up in the very corner of the whole country, and there's nowhere to go, really. You can go to Vancouver a little bit, but then you got to cross the border. You can play a few of the towns around the Puget Sound area, and that's kind of it. It's a 5-hour drive to get to Spokane for a mediocre show. And if you want to play California, that's, like a 12-hour drive down in the Bay Area or something. It's not super easy to do. Oregon was okay, could play Portland, but, it got a little, it was great. People call it a velvet coffin or something.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing was getting out of there, and I was tired of, trying to make it in rock in Seattle. I definitely had great success with Sweetwater and Second Coming, but I didn't want to do that anymore. Rock was dying on the vine, so luckily I met you. So, so did we fly over on the same flight?
No.
Oh, that's right. I went early or something?
Because I remember one of the first of our missteps was like, I'll meet you in the Amsterdam airport.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your plane got in like an hour before mine. And I don't know if anyone's ever been to the Amsterdam airport, but it is enormous. It's like a city. So it was a little bit of a, but luckily I remember I saw your black cowboy hat bobbing above the sea of people. I mean, literally it's a sea of people in the Amsterdam airport. And there's the black hat. It's got to be Dudley. So
Yeah, that was rather lucky, I think, because we hadn't figured out the cell phone thing at that point, and this was 2012, so that's
Right.
a little over 9 years ago. So yeah, that was funny, and that's the only way I could get the hat over there. You couldn't pack it in anything, so I kind of, look, I like wearing the hat live and dressing up a little bit, but I don't wear that to breakfast or to go fly somewhere. So it felt a little funny, but yeah. And then where did we go the first? I remember we rented a car.
Yeah, we rented a car, and we found out we had to have special tires because we were going to Germany, and we were going to get a ticket if we didn't have winter tires in Germany. And then we were trying to decide, we were leaving the airport, should we use the map function? And we're like, no, we don't need the moving map. We don't need the Garmin. We can just follow the signs. And so the first thing we did was we got in like a 1-hour traffic jam.
Yep.
Going the wrong direction.
Yeah. And, and I thought, I'm just going to go around this,
Yeah.
It's like, see all that sea of cars down there? No, I'm going to cut this road over here. No, dude, you can do that in America because there are roads everywhere.
Yeah.
But nope, not there. And, this is the Netherlands, and most of it's water. So these canals and shit. And so, anyway, we finally, we made it. We went to
Cologne.
We went to Cologne to meet with Ralph, and we stayed at his buddy's hotel.
Yeah.
What was that place called? But it was a kind of a crazy... I think it's a very typical, like 2 or 3 star German hotel.
Yeah, like family run.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things over there,
Yes, there was a bar downstairs where everyone was smoking, and I remember looking at the thing you put under the glass, the coaster. The coasters had these hash marks on them. I was like, wow, this guy, they're playing a game or something. And then I realized the beer glasses are really small, and so they're not only are they like a 10-ounce glass, but they only fill them about 75% of the way up. And then the top is foam that they flip off with the tongue depressor looking dealio. And so I don't even know, is that like 3 of those is one of our beers? I have no idea, but everything was weird, and the rooms were quirky and strange, and
like they don't use bed sheets the same way we do. They just use a bottom sheet, no top sheet.
Yeah,
it's just bottom sheet, blanket, or
and
comforter.
And you wonder, what do they actually wash?
Yeah.
Does everyone sleep in their clothes over here because of that? We really had no idea. But okay. So we get there, and then we go the next day. We go to meet Ralph, who turns out to be one of my best buddies over there. He was really sweet from the very beginning, and Ralph has his own amplifier company called Tone Hunter.
Really high end, extremely high end.
Extremely high end, like his
boutique.
Yeah, his amp heads cost 3,000 euros or something, and they're all hand wired. It's all like military grade stuff, and he's just completely type A about testing every part himself, so it's really tedious and everything. But the amps sound amazing, and Randy Hansen was using them and recommended Ralph, and so Ralph said, sure, use the amp for the tour. He lent me a Takai Les Paul, which I played really until the last couple of tours, and put together the pedal board, and he met his wife Christine. And did we meet Tarika then? We didn't meet the kids.
I don't
right
think
away.
so.
But we know the whole family now. We've been on vacation with them. They're fantastic people. So that was really cool, I have to say, because it's a bit intimidating getting there. And you just I don't know why, but we were in our 40s or whatever, and and I felt like a 15-year-old kid who just did a bong hit, and I'm driving down the street and there are cops everywhere, just a little bit paranoid about all of the the different rules. When I do something wrong, somebody's going to pull me over and the cops are way different and they'll put cuffs. I was so worried about that stuff at first.
Yeah, but as it turns out, the Dutch people in particular are so laid back. It's really, having been in a few different Northern European countries, the Dutch are truly, it's not an affectation. They just move at a different pace.
They do. They're very different than the Germans, a lot of the Germans that we met.
Right. So I think the biggest thing for me about Netherlands in particular was like just cafe culture. And all of their center cities, there's no cars for blocks and blocks and blocks. There's there's barriers. You can't drive. You have to walk. So that means that there's cafes and restaurants and clubs that all spill out into the public squares. And you can sit at a cafe and you're out there looking at 50 other people sitting at 5 different cafes in a town square. It's absolutely wonderful experience. What you don't see over there is someone with a go cup of coffee rushing down the street. It's like, no, sit down, take 5 minutes, drink your coffee. So that was probably the biggest thing for me right away, noticing, things are laid back here in a very nice way.
Yeah, very true. And playing shows over there is nice because, and I remember this from one specific tour, I'm like, where are we playing tomorrow? I don't know. And I trying to look it up on my phone, and I was in some store somewhere, and I asked the guy, how long does it take to get there? And he said, 20 minutes. And I'm like, 20 minutes? Oh, God, we're playing there tomorrow? What? I'm like, well, that's just going to ruin it tonight because they're all going to come down here. It's like, oh, no. They're not going to ride their bicycles for an hour and a half to come and see you.
Right.
They're going to wait till you come to their small village.
Yep.
Which is nice. So we don't have to drive very far. I think the longest drive in the Netherlands was like 2.5 hours or something.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you check into the hotel and then you go have a little bit of coffee at the cafe. It is nice. And then you go back, change, go to sound check, play the show, drink some great beer. It's super cool. Okay, so So when we got there, we got the amps, and then we went to meet our drummer because we, could barely afford to get over there. Do you remember what our tickets cost?
Like $700-800, something like that. It was the middle of winter. It was not tourist season.
That's right.
So
that's right.
I think we got pretty good deal on there. But I guess it must have been Jay, the booking agent, that hooked us up with Theo Thumper, our Dutch drummer.
Yeah.
And he was an older dude, probably in his 60s. And he had lived in the U.S. for a time, so he spoke idiomatic American English. He spoke really good English, which was helpful. He helped us navigate some of the ins and outs of the nightclubs and how things worked a little differently there. That was, like we were talking about earlier, Theo didn't, he's a great dude, but he didn't do his homework. And he figured, American blues band, no big deal. I can thump-be-dump-be-dump-be-dump, but like you don't do anything like that. So that was a little disappointing for us. And we had, I think, 2 days of rehearsal with him. And he was gracious and a really, pretty nice person. Gruff in the way that some Dutch people are, know. So we rehearsed outside of Arnhem, which is where he lived.
Right.
And I think that was
video. I have a video of us coming out of the rehearsal.
Okay.
We'll roll it now.
It looks good anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as there's no sound on it.
I think it sounded good.
Yeah.
Sounded great so far. We're going to play with Theo here. Thumper.
How do you say your last name?
Thumper.
Thumper, okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, my normal name would be Oudhuis. My Christian name, but...
I like Thumper.
But he is a thumper.
He is a thumper. Yeah, sounds great.
Thanks.
Music translates.
Almost ready for the first gig.
My family...
So I can't believe in that video, we were excited to be there, and it was just fun to play. We're setting up, we could have played with, somebody's, 14-year-old kid on drums or learning drums. It would have been just fine, we would have had a good time. No, he didn't prepare very well, But we were just, you can see the excitement in our faces. We're just so fucking happy to be there. Plus, when we got there, I think this is in Arnhem. Is that where we went to get some weed for the first time?
Well, yeah, we first had a mishap. We went to some random place in some random town off the highway. And I think you were looking for a coffee shop. That's what they call the weed places there. And we got a joint. Mm-hmm. And what we didn't realize is that it was like 90% tobacco and 10% hash or something.
Right.
And it was just a horrible experience. So we were like throwing that on the ground. But yeah, we found some weed in Arnhem. And you have to get your pipe, you have to get in a different place, in the smart shop.
Yeah.
So you had to go to 2 different places. So
that's right.
Yeah, we were probably pleased about that too. Yeah, it's very, like I say, the Dutch they're very civilized there to have, weed available, I think.
So the first show was really kind of interesting. Our first show was in a town that looks like you pronounce Enschede, but it's actually Enschede. And these Dutch towns are really, a lot of them are almost unpronounceable. But so I had an interview with a woman named Ninneke Lodeman from Blues Magazine, Netherlands, and I didn't know if it was what it was. I think it was an online deal at that point, I think. But it was really nice to have an interview done. It kind of felt special, and then we played our first show at this place called Cafe Rocks. And I'm pretty sure it was packed. It was packed when we started. I can't remember what it was like when we did sound check, if there was anyone.
It was hard to tell because there was so much smoke. You couldn't you couldn't see into the club because the wall of tobacco smoke was just, and they had it engineered to blow right at the stage. So
yeah, well, there was a guy standing like in front of you the whole time, and he was smoking and just blowing the smoke right at me while I was singing. It's like,
well, yeah, there's a slide. One of the pictures I took is of that inside that club, and it's all blurry, and you can't see anything, which was really kind of what the experience was like.
Right, it wasn't just the camera.
And I remember that the power went out for like the lights and the PA system or something.
Right.
And I kept playing, and Theo kept playing. I did like a 5-minute bass solo. I think off the cuff. The show must go on.
It was amazing. We were playing in, I can't remember what key we were in, but you're playing. You got the 5-string, and it wasn't low B. It didn't end up on. We were in like, I don't know, A or something, but he ended up playing that. You just hit the note anyway, and it was just great. I just thought it was the best fucking. And then they had to reset the breaker because I guess
you were playing too loud.
The PA and the. Rinky dink, but it was packed. People went nuts. They loved what we did, even though, half the time we're kind of going, oh God, what's going to happen with the drums and everything. But we did have a vibe, and it was great. I was really high on life after that show. That was fucking incredible. And then we drove to that little town called St. Michael's Castle.
Right.
Or Sint Michiels Castle, as they would say, which was super fucking cool. Do you remember? You want to describe the castle there? Do you remember the boomschlag and the?
Yeah, well, and it was like the middle of winter, and it was like you felt like you were driving into like some imperial embassy or something, with big formal gates and gardens, and big, like a large circular driveway, and this frankly a castle type building, and there was a conference center.
Yeah.
So it had, big auditoriums and room for thousands of people to stay, and big ballrooms and everything. I think you and I were the only people staying there, literally, because we parked our car, and it was like there was the only car there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of those moments where you're like, where the fuck are we? And are we supposed to be here? Is this right? I mean, that was constantly happening. Like, are we playing in this town? What is, you just don't know what you're going to get, I remember that place, and had some weird funky spread in the morning, and we realized pretty quickly what breakfast is in Europe, and it is cold cuts, basically.
by any other name.
It's cold cuts. It's salami, and whatever that is that chicken? Is it ham? Is it turkey? Is it bread? I don't know. And like a hard-boiled egg, or sometimes they weren't completely hard-boiled, and bread. And so that's your breakfast. So I don't eat cheese. So for me, it was always get all the shells off the egg, because they come in the sitting in those little pedestals that they put them on.
Right.
Get the shell off, put that in the bread, eat that. But it was almost better sometimes to just immediately go to the gas station, because unlike the U.S., the gas stations there have fucking great food. I don't know why we haven't figured this out over here.
Yeah, freshly made, like it puts Subway. You say, well, it's kind of like Subway, but no, put Subway to shame. It's actually
Subway away. I mean,
like actual pastries.
Yeah.
Actual fresh bread. Actual fresh ingredients. Yeah, that was a great thing to learn. That we could do that. We could dependably get good food on the highway, at least in the Netherlands and Germany.
Yeah, totally. And so. You get a decent sandwich with the same, fucking eggs and shit on there, but, but we did eat a lot more bread, but I think they make the bread with a different kind of wheat or something, because it doesn't affect me like, the American industrial bread complex products that we consume. Anyway, and then that's right. So, that was Friday and Saturday, and then we didn't go very far to Wageningen.
No, it was all pretty close.
Yeah, and so we got there and walked around, and then, all these crazy back streets that, you look like you're taking a tour of, Amsterdam and buildings from the 1500s. I mean, most of these towns are like that. Dordrecht, one we went to. Near the end, beautiful town, bigger town, same looking shit everywhere. It's crazy. So you just like be walking along, and there's a pub, and then there's like a clothing store, and then there's like a little mini grocery, and then there's your club, and it doesn't look any different, Yeah. So anyway, that was a kind of a fun gig, and that was a Sunday gig. And they had that was our first blues club experience. Because in the Netherlands and in Germany, they have a lot of these blues clubs, and they'll get a subscription for the season, which gives them tickets to every show. And they also get funding from the government, we found out, which helped pay us our measly fees.
Right, and they do these Sunday afternoon shows. Like we learned out, Sunday, there's always a matinee, because everyone goes home and watches football on television afterwards.
Yep. Exactly. And like, who the fuck's going to come on Sunday? Sunday shows can be amazing.
Yeah.
I actually like the Sunday shows. So we did that one. And I remember that venue had a monitor that was hanging over here, and I had my hat on, and I wear my dark sunglasses because I fucking hate the stage lights right in my eyes, and I didn't see it, and I just went right into it.
Well, you jumped up on the speaker in front of the stage. You were trying to be cool, like, hey, I'm going to jump up on the speker cabinet and get their attention. Wonk.
Yeah.
But I think you kept playing. I think to your credit, you didn't drop a beat. So.
I kept going, and I actually have a shot of. We'll show it right here. A shot of me and a guy grinning, holding a beer. I don't know if he was laughing at me because I just hit my head, or if he was into the riffs I was playing. But I think they liked us, but I also think they didn't ever want us back again because we were too heavy. I think we were too heavy for them.
So so Wageningen, that's where we had that experience at the coffee shop, the weed shop, and I remember it very like it's a scene from a Quentin Tarantino movie.
I think you should tell this one.
Okay, well, I remember we asked our waiter first of all at wherever we were eating dinner, where can we get a bud, And he said, well, you go through that little archway across the plaza and then go to the right. And we're like, this is really weird. And there's like no lights and it was kind of dark. Sure enough, there was a little alley there and we walked for a while. I think we're lost. And we see the ganja sign or whatever, you know, the Jamaican flag.
Yep.
And so we go in, this must be it. And so it's really dark in there. And there's like, you come in and there's like a little passageway that leads up to a gated thing, like a bank teller. And off to the right is another room that's separated where people are smoking.
Yep.
So that's what people do there. They don't get it and leave. They get it and sit there and smoke. That's kind of the custom. But anyway, not for us. So we come in there and Dudley's like, we want the best shit that you have. We just want the fucking best shit.
Yeah.
And the guy, I think the people who work at these coffee shops are Lebanese or some Middle Eastern, and so he says, "Oh, it is very strong. You will feel it." Yeah. And Dudley says, "Oh, it's okay. We're professionals."
Yeah, we know.
And so at the back of the bar, there's like a cloud of smoke. There's a guy with a hookah back there. You can't even hardly see him, and there's so much smoke. His voice comes out. He says, many times professionals become amateurs.
Yeah.
And we're just like, we can't even.
You couldn't write that one any better. It was hilarious. It was
so, and it was kick ass. It was.
Good.
We got out there. Yeah.
You know, it's funny though. They don't specify what kind of weed it is. You know, you say, hey, well, is this, you know, indica or is this, you know, sativa? I don't know. I think most of it's indica.
Probably a haze, because you have a lot of haze: silver haze, golden haze, you know, purple haze. And we went to Hannover's a pretty big city, and we went to the record company. They have a pretty nice, like a little ground floor office in this courtyard, which if you're really careful, and you can just barely drive your car in without scraping the mirrors through this little passageway.
Yep.
And so we're at the record company, and Dudley comes busting through the front doors, and the first thing he does is trip and falls right on his face. Very first
I tripped
thing.
over the dog.
Over the dog.
And I almost hurt my hand, but I didn't, luckily. And that was my big entrance.
It broke the ice. It did.
To M.I.G, made in Germany. Yeah.
I've got some pictures that I sent you from there with Burnt.
So we met Burnt there, and I believe that's the first time I met him. Maybe I met him before, can't remember. Maybe I met him in Enschede at the hotel. But that was the first time we met Manfred Schutz. And he's the guy in the photo on the right that looks like he could be a sailor in that one. I don't know. But no, he's very, very much an aggro kind of guy. And then I forget the name of the guy on the left with the dark hair. Who is it?
Willie.
Oh, Willie. That's right. Willie. Okay. And do you remember the secretary's name?
Tanya.
Tanya. That's right. Tanya. So, so we kind of met these people and they manufactured their own CDs of Left for Dead plus one extra track, which was When the Levee Breaks.
Yeah.
And sold them back to us for 7 or 8 euros so that we could sell them at shows. So that was our record deal, basically. They did very little promo, but I kind of thought, might as well give it a shot. But it was...
Well, they were credible. They are a credible record company. They own the Rock Palace catalog, which is
That's true.
Huge. I mean, almost every major blues and rock person has done Rock Palace at some point. It's like, Austin City Limits of Northern Europe.
Absolutely. God, I would love to get a Rock Palace gig. That would be amazing. But yeah, they weren't really breaking new acts. They were just... I think it was more because Burned would just be in Manfred's face to the point where Manfred was kind of sick of him, and he wasn't very nice to him on this trip, And Burn's a nice guy. It kind of reminds me of like a Dudley Moore, but with a German accent,
Yeah,
He's really funny,
really sweet guy.
Yeah, very engaging, and he had his own little label or whatever called Dust on the Tracks. So that night we decide we're going to go out to dinner with all the guys from M.I.G, and apparently there was some who is this guy? Some famous German singer,
famous German producer and singer. I mean, he was like, he's really hot right now. Everything he touches, And
we're going to be so lucky if he comes and over and sees us at dinner and everything. We're like, okay, so we're rolling with it. That's seems kind of fun. And we go over there. We all smoke a little pot first, right?
Oh, in his car, right? In
in
Manfred's
his office,
car.
remember?
Oh, in his office, right?
Yeah, we smoked it in his office, smoked a bowl. I'm like, wow, this is cool. I like these guys. So anyway, we're kind of stoned, and we go to this German restaurant. And I don't know what they think restaurant hospitality is supposed to be, but it was sort of like walking into a gulag, It's like, where's your table? This is your cell. You will sit here. And whatever, it was just, everyone was so gruff. And that woman, and the fucking menus, were like small phone books, and they were heavy. And she would just came around like an old school marm and just like, put them on the table. And then, but, Manfred was talking to her like, give me this. The whole thing was just weird. That made me uncomfortable.
And the food came like 90 seconds later after we ordered. It's like the food was there.
It came quick. And so, Hannover, that's where they make all like Volkswagens and stuff.
Yeah,
those people,
Audi,
people are just tuned up to make shit happen. And they point out the errors first. It's not like, oh, hey, man, you guys are great. It's like, there's a problem with the steering system. We will fix this immediately. Or if there's a problem with, it's just a really different vibe. I mean, not everyone was like that, of course, but Manfred was very much, it was like a New Yorker kind of thing, rah, 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 making deals. And I remember him signing CDs, and he comes out of the office, just made 6,000 euros. And, turns around and goes back in. Like, all right. I thought it was going to be really awesome being on his label because he seemed like a deal maker, but not really. So anyway, so this place, this is where we met another strange character. What's that guy's name? Like Yape or Jaap? The guy that runs this was another blues.
The record shop?
No, this was Penny Lane in Oostburg.
Oh, Penny Lane. Okay, right, yeah.
Yeah, so they're run by this guy named like Jape or something. Never knew how to pronounce his name. Jaap or something. And he kind of had curly hair, and it was called, he named his little blues club Penny Lane, and it was like the one in Wageningen, and it had subscribers, and they'd come to a series of shows, and we were one of the series of shows. And, it was this very small town close to the water. So this is south of Amsterdam in Zeeland, which literally is like Southland, right? And Oostburg is West Town. Yeah. So we're southwest, basically.
As far as you can go.
As far as you can go. And so, it was, I think maybe, we did play that one in St. Michael's Castle, but we were close to other things. This was our first sort of like off the beaten path, sort of weirdo blues club place. And then they always have some weird fucking place for you to stay. So our first couple of tours, we took it in the shorts on staying at, a buddy's place or whatever. This hotel room, you came back we played there again on another tour. We didn't get the weird one the first time, did we? It's like 3 beds in one big like open room.
Right, and like you had to go through the bathroom to get into the room.
You had to go through open and there's the bathroom. This is a hotel room? The fuck is this? Where are we? But it was, they were always somewhat disappointing. And they all, had these weird tiny showers. I call them shower pods, where like, picture Harry Shearer trying to get out of the pod in Spinal Tap, and like, okay, how am I supposed to soap anything below my knees without turning the shower off, opening the door, being able to bend over? And then, anyway, don't get me started on that. But that place was kind of fun. And after that, I remember we went to Breskins, which was on the water.
Yeah, we went down to the coast.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you to kind of like, okay, so we're in this town and it's on the water, but you can't see the water because there's a dyke right there, which is just a big hill. It was kind of weird, like if the town's on the water. Anyways, yeah, you go up the hill, cross the dyke, and then down to the ocean. And I think we kept trying to figure out if the town was below sea level. It was really kind of hard to tell,
There was one place we were at where we were looking, and there was a boat that was above us, and above the berm. There was like, you were driving, if there's a boat up there, how, It's amazing the engineering. I mean, that's like 1,000 years of engineering to create the Netherlands. And we learned also that's what the windmills are all about. They're not just there because they look good. They're pumps to pump the water out of the fields, and then they create these ditches on either side, pump the water into the ditches for enough years, and boom, now you've got agriculture. Right. So that entire country has basically been reclaimed. It's 3 river deltas drained through the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. So yeah, water management. They're like way ahead of the game.
They're the pros at it, absolutely. Yep. And seeing some of this with the naked eye, it's bizarre. When we're driving north on this road, it's sort of the very like along the water going north, the very western edge of the Netherlands, and you can see the ocean, and then you can also see sort of down these little towns, and your brain really doesn't like that. It wants to try to it's very bizarre to see it. It's an amazing place. And there are some places where you drive and you go by the trees, and the trees have this rhythm as they go by because they've all been planted in rows. So you see down where you can go completely horizontally, there's one, then there's another. It's just bizarre. Not all of it is like that, but. And then we got to meet one of our best buddy, Anko, at our next show, right? Did I skip one?
No, you're right. We drove to Almelo.
Yeah, we drove to Almelo, which was completely the opposite direction. Maybe an hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
So that was our first time meeting Anko, and he had a venue called Dr. Rock. We already met Dr. Rock, and we played rocks. There's a lot of rock going on over there.
Yeah. And it was a no-smoking venue.
Yeah, that was
He
awesome.
and his wife Helga ran it, and I think that was like a really tough thing to make work over there.
Yeah.
A non-smoking venue.
Yeah, and just a music venue in general. I mean, he was really going with his heart there. He's a brandweer, which is a fireman, and and he had done that for quite a while. So I know he could handle something else, but it was just too much for him, and they only had it for maybe less than a year or something.
All right, and they have 2 young children.
Yeah, and 2 young kids. So, right. So, but we were lucky enough to play there. Because I ended up staying in touch with Anko after this tour was over, and ended up, staying at his house every tour since, using his drum kit, and
that first night that we met them, and it wasn't that there weren't that many people at the show. I mean, it was not like the greatest show that we ever did. We played well, but it was a small crowd. And so afterwards, it's like midnight or something. We're going back to Anko's. We're going to stay at Anko's, right? And we're already rolling our eyes because the night before we'd stayed in this just absolute crap hole band apartment, And anyway, that was above Penny Lane. And anyway, we got to Anko's. It turned out that whiskey became part of the conversation. We were there with Anko and Helga and Arjan, that's a guitar player dude.
Yep.
And we literally stayed up all night drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what time it was when we went to bed, but it didn't matter. It was like well into the night, you know.
It was late. So you know the term room and board, right? It's you get a room and then there's a board, and the board was kind of where you would eat. So you'd eat. And in his kitchen they have this giant, and it's not a normal table. It's a board. And it's made from some fucking 200-year-old piece of wood or some shit.
And people have been born on this piece of wood. People have died on it.
Conceived and lived their whole life.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. And you just sit down there, and he's got a whiskey collection. He'll go, maybe a little bit of this one, you know. And you try this one, and that's good. And yeah, so
but it was a little bit beyond that, because he had the eyedropper. And he was like dropping one drop of water into the whiskey, and they had chocolates, and they had nuts, things to eat,
and little dried meats and everything.
Yeah, things to eat between your tasting.
Yeah, and he's part of this whiskey club, and I actually showed up. I have some on video. It's kind of funny. I showed up, and they're doing some whiskey tasting and everything, and I should have brought some whiskey in there for him. But anyway, and so that's the problem, though. When you go to stay with Anko and Helga, is, every few nights it's launch pad on the board.
Yeah. So they became our really close pals over there, and an anchor for all the tours. We couldn't really have done that without their assistance.
Absolutely.
Being able to stay with them, and they, without any hesitation, fed us everything in their house. They fed us breakfast, they fed us dinner, it was just, the hospitality was amazing.
It was amazing, and I kept asking him, I'm like, dude, are you sure this is cool? Can we keep staying here? Luckily, they came and visited the U.S. We were able to return a lot of the favors, and I don't know if I told you this, but I bought Anko a drum kit to replace. Nice. Well, first of all, I bought myself a drum kit to use instead of his, but I wanted to get him a new kit because I used his kit for 10 or 12 tours and trashed them. So I got it through Walfredo Reyes's deal with DW drums, and so it's like end of March or something. He's getting his nice. Dream drum kit. So I feel very happy to repay it. But you're absolutely right. Without the help of Ralph and without the help of Anko, it would have been a lot more difficult, because it wasn't like we just fell into the lap of some booking agent that was great. That it's all been really, really, really tough. It's super tough.
And so Anko was a heavy metal drummer earlier in his day, and now with the same people in the band, they now have an Irish band.
Yeah, it's an Irish folk
the same
music
guys.
Band. Yeah.
And they're really good.
Dragonfly became the Beggars Clan.
Yeah.
And they play theaters, so they'll I'll come back for a few days off at his place, and I had 150 people there. We had 300 at the show. He's like, we played 2 theaters, 600 people each night.
Yeah,
they're getting it. But they're doing their thing, and we're doing our thing, man. Well, there was one last show. Do we want to talk about that? Oude, Meer. That was a weird place.
There was two shows. There's Oude, Meer.
Oh, Dordrecht. Yeah,
Dordrecht. There's 3 shows. There's Dordrecht, which is the Music Podium, DJS.
Yeah, DJS Dordrecht, which is one of the most bizarre stages and setups I've seen. I don't know.
Yeah, of course, there was a grand piano, and you had to just deal with it. I think they had a little platform you could push it over to the side. So we're crammed up on this tiny little stage, this is the place where they had a decibel meter on the ceiling, and if you got too loud, like if the drummer hit a snare drum too loud, it would flash a light, and if you did it too many times, it would turn the volume down, and if you did it like 3 infractions, that was it. The gig was canceled.
Right.
It was like really severe.
They were worried at first that we were just going to be loud, crazy rock, but and literally, Theo was hitting the snare to tune it, and it set the fucking thing off. And like, what, and I just thought, maybe we just not going to play here tonight. But they warmed up to us, and they ended up just unplugging it, which was nice, because we have some video here that we're watching at the end of the show here. They're going nuts. Listen to that, man. They loved it. We had a great night there. Super fun, but they're probably cautious about having unknown American bands come over there. But they even put me on the cover of their program for, one of the other shows.
Yeah, we played there again.
Which was
one
super
of the few
nice.
One of the few return gigs, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and I remember that was a place where it really drove home to me. A lot of the people that came to this club, it was kind of a nicer club. I mean, people were well dressed, and women were wearing nice clothes and stockings and boots, and it was the winter, so people were, wearing clothing. But then you'd go out, and these same people wearing their nice clothing would get on their bicycles and ride off into the night.
Right.
It was like, it did not compute at first. It's like, well,
right.
how? But then you realize, no, that's actually the way it works here. And they ride bicycles everywhere.
Yeah, just girls learn to drive with their dresses on, and men drive with their, suits on, ready to go to work and shit. It's just, it is a little weird.
and so right outside of this club, it was on this plaza with this gigantic cathedral. And like a lot of the buildings in Dordrecht, the cathedral is leaning by like enough that you can see it. I mean, you can tell that building is leaning. I actually walked up to the top of that with Chris Layton on one of our visits there.
Yep.
A cool view at the top. But when we did walk around Dordrecht, I've got some pictures of this, and you can see all the houses. You look down the street, and like some of the houses are leaning this way, and some of the houses are leaning this way.
Oh yeah.
Because they're all these brick houses, big heavy brick houses, and they're not going to fall apart. They're just going to gradually just.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, everything, they've been there for hundreds of years,
Yeah. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
It is very different than anything. Dordrecht was a bigger town than some of the other places we played, and people were dressed up a little bit nicer, But that was not the case in the Shack, was it?
Yeah, that was kind of a funky venue, but at least they had dogs.
It was by the airport.
Around.
It was by the airport, right? By the Schiphol airport.
Yeah.
Oude Meer, outer ring, or whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't remember much about that gig, except the dogs, and that they fed us dinner, and it was like SpaghettiOs or something.
Yeah, oh God. We should talk a little bit about the food. And
Well, we talked about breakfast.
Yeah. The dinner thing. Oh yeah, dinner at the venue is it's kind of sketch because number one, neither of us have regular diets, and it's not because I don't want to eat cheese or milk. I just can't. I've never been able to digest that stuff. Makes me feel like shit. Gets all stuffed up.
Going to Netherlands and not eating cheese.
It's bad.
It's really hard because their whole country is the economy is built on cheese.
Yeah.
It's like one of the main food sources.
Bread and cheese.
Yogurt,
Yeah.
Ice cream, cheese.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah.
All the good stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, they would have these snacks after the show.
Yeah, sometimes that was the best meal.
Sometimes it was okay. Sometimes it was disgusting. Remember we did this thing for that Blues Moose?
I know which one. The video.
Yeah, the Blues Moose video, right.
Yeah, with Chris Layton was on that tour.
Yeah, and after we were done, they just brought out the grossest spread of deep fried meat.
It was like a platter piled like a foot high with sausages of all different things.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we're so fucking hungry that we ate it.
Yeah,
because it's either you eat this pile of rancid meat or you don't eat. So.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. There was some really terrible stuff in there. Not all the time, and sorry, Rob Blues Moose, if you're watching this, buddy. But, we're finicky Americans, slap us around. But, we eventually learned, where to go and eat. Because you can eat, the cafes were really good. It just takes a little more time when you're getting your coffee. Make sure you eat something early before the show, if you can.
Yeah, because what happens is a lot of times you get up in the morning, checkout time's like 9 or 10, so you get up so you can have breakfast at the hotel, and then you drive for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, then all of a sudden you're setting up, and then it's dinner. And it's like, well, what happened to lunch?
Yeah.
So I think I lost weight on every tour that I've gone on with you just because of those missed lunches.
Yeah, me too, exactly. And my wife, Michelle, reminds me of that all the time. She hates it. I go on tour and lose 5 pounds, But hey, we're working, man. We're working. And you're right. It's, a lot of times it's 2 meals that day and you're burning more calories,
Yep.
Yeah, we're sitting in the van and stuff, driving, but not that much. Every once in a while when we get out to Eastern Germany or Poland or whatever, Austria, there's more driving involved. But the first tour was fun as fuck, and I just remember, all I want to do is go back and do more.
Yeah, it was fun. It was just, and we had one. The last gig was fun. After we went over to Geleen.
Oh,
played at the Blues Rock Garage.
I forgot. Yeah.
With Skinny and Gabby.
Yep.
And so this is again like a family club restaurant. They own the place. They live there. It's like it's their baby. And their son was like working at their 12-year-old son was serving drinks at the bar and stuff. You remember that? So yeah, Gabby and Skinny ended up being friends for several years. They came to see a bunch of our shows, and they helped us get some shows later on. I think their club closed shortly after we played there.
Yeah, they eventually moved to France.
Yeah, right. But as you can see, there's a great picture of you and Skinny I sent you.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? It's like he's not a skinny man. But really, what a character, and a great musician. He's also a really good guitar player.
He's a great guitar player, yeah.
So yeah, we had fun there playing that last gig, and that was at least for me, that was the last night that we slept in Europe, and we woke up and we stayed above the venue in these little rooms, no heat.
Yeah,
and there was
I remember that.
This massive cold front that had just come into Northern Europe. It was like 20 degrees. We woke up in the morning. We're supposed to leave, and there's like 3 inches of snow.
Yeah.
And it's snowing hard.
Yep.
And we're like 2 hours from the airport.
Yep. And then remember we didn't want to drop off Ralph's gear, and he was sort of like, what? And we were like, fuck, we better go. And we managed to make it and drop off the gear and everything. But yeah, I remember something funny about that last show. Of course, no one had heard us or heard, my album, or very few people had. But we played, and I think I have it on video, we played Long Way Down, and they started singing the chorus. They'd never heard the song before. But that was a packed show. Mm-hmm. Remember that guy gave me the painting? He saw a picture of me and gave me a painting of me, and just felt like royalty, and Gabby and Skitty were amazing, and yeah, family run joint, very cool decor and everything in there.
Yeah, like very Americana. They love American stuff. Like there was automobile Cadillac parts. Was that I think he had another like a Chevrolet grill on the soundboard or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, another thing that's different about audiences in Europe that was pretty apparent is that people would say, "Oh, we came to see your band because we've never seen you before."
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, "What?"
It's the opposite of the U.S. You know, man, I've been reading about you for a while. I figured we better come check you out. They're like, "We came to check you out because we've never heard of you before."
Yeah, refreshing.
They're actually. What?
Yeah, they're actually curious and well informed about music. And I think part of that is being geographically close to England and close to Scandinavia. So England, you've got that blues rock thing coming. From Scandinavia, you've got that heavy metal thing coming down. So it's like the blues rock and heavy metal meet in Northern Europe. They like it heavy there. They do. Like when we did that Peter Green song, "Oh Well," people just were like, oh, you know, like this is the ultimate song you could ever play. You know, it was great.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you do a great version of it. So
yeah, we did. We recorded it on the Blues Moose thing. Let's put a link to that somewhere. We'll put a link in the description.
Kick ass. And so here's another funny thing. We were talking earlier about these, you know, gruff Dutch. A guy comes up to me after between sets, and he was like, "Oh, I like your band. How long have you been playing together?" And I said, "Oh, you know, 2 or 3 years." He said, "You were all very ugly."
Yeah.
And turns around and walks away.
Ugly. Yeah, that's right. I remember one time it's like you got on the mic because I'm switching guitars or something, and you made a reference to The Wizard of Oz, which no one in Europe has ever heard of. Right. And so you're like, well, I guess we're not in Kansas anymore. You know, this is crazy being here and all this stuff. And so this guy comes up in between sets. So you are from Kansas?
Be careful what you say.
Yeah, so you gotta that's when we learn learn quickly. Number one, speak slowly. It took me a while to learn though, don't try to say a bunch of shit in Dutch or German or Polish or whatever the fuck. They want to hear you talking like you. Yeah. Hey, they want to hear you sound like the TV shows and movies that they watch from America, you know. It took a little while to figure out how to talk to that audience, but yeah, they're so much more enthusiastic, I think, over there, even if they don't necessarily show it. The Dutch may not show it, but they'll come to every show. Yeah. And it's much more part of their culture, I think, and more common to see them bring, you know, their kids. Or see younger people that are sort of out of the blues rock demographic come to shows. And this is especially true the further east you go into East Germany and Poland that I've experienced. So there's still a huge market for it. They still love it. And I'm just so bummed can't go because of COVID right now. But we're hoping for early 22 over there. But Johnny, thanks for talking to me about this, buddy. This has been great
fun.
Memories,
man. This is one of the fun. I mean, it was like most disastrous and most fun tour at the same time. You know, like so many things went wrong, but like just like you said, when we finished, it was like, when do we go back?
Yeah.
It was like as soon as I got home, it was like, when are we going back?
More punishment, please. Well, we did, and maybe we should come back and talk about some of the other tours. We certainly have lots of video and pictures and everything, so it would be fun to talk about.
And here's sunset over Amsterdam. Now, the next day... No.
Yeah, look what I had for lunch. All right. Well, hey, thanks very much, John Kessler, and appreciate you being here with me today. Thanks for being on Dudley's World of Guitar.
Woohoo! All right, man. Check you later.
All right.